This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Napoleon of Notting Hill by G. K. Chesterton. Section 15, Book 5, Chapter 3. Two Voices. In a place in which there was total darkness for hours, there was also for hours total silence. Then a voice spoke out of the darkness, no one could have told from where, and said aloud, "So ends the Empire of Notting Hill. As it began in blood, so it ended in blood, and all things are always the same." And there was silence again, and then again there was a voice, but it had not the same tone. It seemed that it was not the same voice. If all things are always the same, it is because they are always heroic. If all things are always the same, it is because they are always new. To each man one soul only is given. To each soul only is given a little power, the power at some moments to outgrow and swallow up the stars. If age after age that power comes upon men, whatever gives it to them is great. Whatever makes men feel old is mean, an empire or a skinflint shop. Whatever makes men feel young is great, a great war or a love story. And in the darkest of the books of God there is written a truth that is also a riddle. It is of the new things that men tire, of fashions and proposals and improvements and change. It is the old things that startle and intoxicate. It is the old things that are young. There is no sceptic who does not feel that many have doubted before. There is no rich and fickle man who does not feel that all his novelties are ancient. There is no worshipper of change who does not feel upon his neck the vast weight of the weariness of the universe. But we who do the old things are fed by nature with a perpetual infancy. No man who is in love thinks that any one has been in love before. No woman who has a child thinks that there have been such things as children. No people that fight for their own city are haunted with the burden of the broken empires. Yes, O dark voice, the world is always the same, for it is always unexpected. A little gust of wind blew through the night, and then the first voice answered, "But in this world there are some, be they wise or foolish, whom nothing intoxicates. There are some who see all your disturbances like a cloud of flies. They know that while men will laugh at your Notting Hill, and will study and rehearse and sing of Athens and Jerusalem were silly suburbs like your Notting Hill. They know that the earth itself is a suburb, and can feel only drearily and respectably amused as they move upon it." "They are philosophers, or they are fools," said the other voice. "They are not men. Men live, as I say, rejoicing from age to age in something fresher than progress, in the fact that with every baby a new sun and a new moon are made. If our ancient humanity were a single man, it might perhaps be that he would break down under the memory of so many loyalties, under the burden of so many diverse heroisms, under the load and terror of all the goodness of men. But it has pleased God so as to isolate the individual soul, that it can only learn of all other souls by hearsay, and to each one goodness and happiness come with the youth and violence of lightning, as momentary and as pure. And the doom of failure that lies on all human systems does not in real fact affect them any more than the worms of the inevitable grave affect a children's game in a meadow. Notting Hill has fallen, Notting Hill has died, But that is not the tremendous issue. Notting Hill has lived. "But if," answered the other voice, "if what is achieved by all these efforts be only the common contentment of humanity, why do men so extravagantly toil and die in them? Has nothing been done by Notting Hill that any chance clump of farmers or clan of savages would not have done without it? What might have been done to Notting Hill if the world had been different may be a deep question, but there is a deeper. What could have happened to the world if Notting Hill had never been?" The other voice replied, "The same that would have happened to the world and all the starry systems if an apple tree grew 6 apples instead of 7. Something would have been eternally lost. There has never been anything in the world absolutely like Notting Hill. There will never be anything quite like it to the crack of doom. I cannot believe anything but that God loved it as He must surely love anything that is itself and unreplaceable. But even for that I do not care. If God with all His thunders hated it, I loved it." And with the voice a tall, strange figure lifted out of the débris in the half darkness. The other voice came after a long pause, and as it were hoarsely. "But suppose the whole matter were really a hocus-pocus. Suppose that whatever meaning you may choose in your fancy to give to it, the real meaning of the whole was mockery. Suppose it was all folly. Suppose—" "I have been in it," answered the voice from the tall and strange figure, "and I know it was not." A smaller figure seemed half to rise in the dark. "Suppose I am God," said the voice, "and suppose I made the world in idleness. Suppose the stars that you think eternal are only the idiot fireworks of an everlasting schoolboy. Suppose the sun and the moon, to which you sing alternately, are only the two eyes of one vast and sneering giant, opened alternately in a never-ending wink. Suppose the trees in my eyes are as foolish as enormous toadstools. Suppose Socrates and Charlemagne are to me only beasts, made funnier by walking on their hind legs. Suppose I am God, and having made these things laugh at them." "And suppose I am man," answered the other, "and suppose that I give you the answer that shatters even a laugh. Suppose I do not laugh back at you, do not blaspheme you, do not curse you. But suppose, standing up straight under the sky with every power of my being, I thank you for the fool's paradise you have made. Suppose I praise you with a literal pain of ecstasy for the jest that has brought me so terrible a joy. If we have taken the child's games and given them the seriousness of a crusade, if we have drenched your grotesque Dutch garden with the blood of martyrs, we have turned a nursery into a temple. I ask you in the name of heaven, who wins?" The sky close about the crest of the hills and trees was beginning to turn from black to grey, with a random suggestion of the morning. The slight figure seemed to crawl towards the larger one, and the voice was more human. "But suppose, friend," it said, "suppose that in a bitterer and more real sense it was all a mockery. Suppose that there had been from the beginning of these great wars one who watched them with a sense that is beyond expression, a sense of detachment, of responsibility, of irony, of agony. Suppose that there were one who knew it was all a joke." The tall figure answered, "He could not know it, for it was not all a joke." And a gust of wind blew away some clouds that sealed the skyline, and showed a strip of silver beneath his great dark legs. Then the other voice came, having crept nearer still. "Adam Wayne," it said, "there are men who confess only in articulo mortis. There are people who blame themselves only when they can no longer help others. I am one of them. Here upon the field of the bloody end of it all I come to tell you plainly what you would never understand before. Do you know who I am?" "I know you, Auberon Quin," answered the tall figure, "and I shall be glad to unburden your spirit of anything that lies upon it."